Please, I promise I will be good.
You never have to prove that to me.
Seattle rain hammers the stadium bleachers. Ryan Sterling, a powerful CEO but just a man walking home, spots a barefoot boy curled on wet concrete, clutching a dented red toy car. "I have to stay until I'm good," the boy whispers. Ryan kneels, gives his jacket, and feels a promise he cannot ignore. Who left a child in the storm, and what happens when Ryan brings him home? The stadium emptied like a tide going out, the roar replaced by the hush of heavy rain. Ryan Sterling stepped from the executive tunnel into the shadowed underbelly of the bleachers, tie loosened, phone buzzing with congratulatory texts he did not read. The investor demo had gone well, but his chest carried a weight he could not name. Water rattled on the corrugated metal and fell in bead chains from steel ribs. Sodium lights hummed above a maze of concrete and echo. He told his driver he would walk to the far gate. He needed air. He needed a minute that did not belong to anyone else. The scent of wet popcorn oil drifted from a closed concession stand. A forgotten foam finger lay face down in a puddle and bobbed when runoff flowed past. The city beyond the walls felt close and far at the same time. Halfway down the service corridor, Ryan heard it. Not a shout, not a cry, a whisper that seemed too small for so much rain. He stopped and turned his head, listening like he would to a thin bearing inside a machine. The whisper came again, from beneath a bleacher bay where the concrete sloped and water pooled. He stepped off the main path and into the dim. His soles splashed. He held his breath without meaning to. There, tucked against a support pillar, was a boy. Small, maybe 6. Knees hugged to his chest, chin tucked, hair plastered to his forehead. Bare feet flat against the concrete like pale leaves. A thin T-shirt clung to his shoulders and trembled with each breath. He was not crying. He was holding still the way scared animals do. Ryan crouched a few yards away. He knew not to loom. The boy's eyes flicked up, then down again. His lips moved. Ryan leaned closer, rain tapping on his shoulders, water creeping down his collar. "I have to stay until I am good," the boy whispered, barely making sound. Then he went very still, as if speaking that much had broken a rule. Good. The word landed like a stone in Ryan's gut. He scanned for an adult, for a security guard, for anyone. No one. The back gate was locked. The field lights had gone black. The only sound was rain and the hum of the lights and the shallow, stubborn breathing of a child who believed movement was dangerous. "Hey," Ryan said, keeping his voice low, warm. "My name is Ryan. I can wait with you." The boy did not answer. A tremor ran through his damp shoulders and was gone. Ryan saw the scuffed knuckles of a small hand. The hand held something, curled tight around it, hidden in his fist. A flash of red plastic peeked from between fingers, then vanished again. Ryan shifted to one knee. Cold seeped through his trousers. He loosened his shoulders as if he could take his own size out of the air. Years of commanding rooms, measuring outcomes, pushing schedules. All of it felt useless here. He took in the boy's feet, bluish at the toes. He took in the scraped shin, the thinness at the wrists. He took in the way the boy had wedged himself into the corner like he had been told not to take space. "Are you hurt?" Ryan asked. "Or just cold?" The boy's mouth formed a word without releasing it. He shook his head a fraction. The whisper came again, softer. "I have to stay." "For how long?" Ryan asked. He kept his hands visible, empty, resting on his knees. "Until I am good," the boy repeated, eyes fixed on the slick floor. "He said if I was good, he would come back." Ryan's jaw tightened. A slow grind against the taste that rose in his throat. He looked at the way water snaked around the boy like little rivers and gathered under his heels. No jacket, no shoes, no adult. The rain ticked. The lights hummed. The city breathed beyond the wall. "Okay," Ryan said, steady. "I hear you." He slid off his suit jacket, heavy and warm from his body heat, and set it beside him. He did not force it on the child. He let time sit between them. He let the sound of rain do some of the talking. A security cart buzzed somewhere distant, then faded. Ryan's phone vibrated again and again. He did not look. He watched the boy's fingers, still clenched, still guarding the red thing like a tiny secret. He watched the boy's shoulders rise and fall. "My name is Ryan," he said again. "If I sit right here, will that be okay?" The boy lifted his gaze just enough for Ryan to see the fear inside it, and the stubborn courage pressed hard against it. He did not nod. He did not shake his head. He just looked, deciding. Then his eyes dropped, and his small hand tightened around the red thing until the knuckles went white. Ryan lowered himself the last inch to the concrete and settled in. Rain tapped. Lights hummed. He was not going anywhere. Ryan stayed crouched until his thighs ached, rain dripping from his hair onto the concrete. The boy had not moved, except for the occasional blink or shiver. Ryan let silence breathe between them. He had learned in boardrooms that silence could bend a room, but here it carried a different weight. This was not about control. It was about not breaking something already fragile. "I'm going to sit," Ryan said softly, shifting to rest against a beam. He laid his jacket across his lap so the boy could see it was there. Not a demand, not a trick, an offer waiting. The boy's eyes flicked once toward the dark navy fabric. He licked his lips, then looked down again. His bare toes curled against the cold floor. His small fist still gripped the red plastic. Ryan angled his head, catching just enough light to see it clearer. A toy car. The paint dented, one wheel bent sideways. "That's a good car," Ryan said gently. "Fast one?" The boy didn't answer. He turned the car slightly in his palm, like he was checking if it was still real. "My dad gave me a toy once," Ryan continued, his voice even. "I kept it in my pocket every day, until it broke." He let out a slow breath. "Sometimes, even broken things mean more because they've been with us longer." The boy's fingers tightened on the car. A pause. Then his lips parted, his voice thin. "He said it was junk." Ryan's chest tightened. "Who said that?" The boy shifted, the words coming halting. "My dad. He said I'm trouble. He said I don't listen. He said if I wait here long enough, he'll know if I'm good." His voice cracked on the last word. He tucked his head into his knees. Ryan's jaw set, but he kept his voice soft. "What's your name?" The boy hesitated, then, almost too quiet to hear, "Owen." Ryan nodded slowly. "Owen. That's strong. Fits you." He tilted his head, catching Owen's eyes for the first time. Wide, dark, frightened, and yet still holding on. "I don't think you're trouble, Owen." The boy's eyes glistened. He blinked hard, looking away. "You're freezing," Ryan said. He lifted the jacket again, spreading it open like a blanket. "Can I put this on your shoulders, just to warm you?" Owen shook his head quickly, a sharp, practiced no. Then his voice cracked. I don't want to be taken away." Ryan froze, reading the fear in those words. He lowered the jacket back onto his lap. "I'm not here to take you away, Owen. I'm just here. That's all." The boy's breathing steadied a little, though his shoulders trembled. A drop of rain fell from the bleachers and landed on his arm, making him flinch. Ryan leaned slightly closer, not touching, just there. "You know," Ryan murmured, "when I was little I got stuck outside in a storm once. Shoes soaked through. My mom wrapped my feet in towels and said, 'No boy should have to shiver alone.'" He exhaled, eyes softening. "I believe that, Owen. No boy should sit in the cold like this." The boy looked at him again, searching his face. For a moment, Ryan worried his presence was too much, too big, too sharp. But then, slowly, Owen shifted his toy car from one hand to the other, his fist relaxing. Ryan saw it as a kind of trust, a thin thread, fragile, but there. He lowered his voice further. "If I promise to sit here until you're ready, would that be okay?" Owen gave the smallest nod, barely more than a twitch. His eyes dropped, but his body eased a fraction. Ryan laid the jacket carefully beside him, close enough to reach but not forced. He leaned against the beam, watching the rain streak across the concrete. His phone buzzed again. Ignored. Tonight, nothing else mattered. And in that quiet, under the hum of stadium lights, something shifted in him. Ryan Sterling, who could bend corporations and sway investors, realized he was kneeling before the one decision that might matter most. The rain softened into mist by the time Owen's shoulders stopped trembling. Ryan stayed, legs stiff, but unwilling to move first. He could feel the boy's fear layered under exhaustion, the way silence pressed down heavier than the storm itself. Finally, Owen whispered, almost as if confessing, "She's gone." Ryan tilted his head, his tone careful. "Who's gone?" "My mom," Owen said. His small voice cracked, then steadied. She got sick. They said she had to stay at the hospital. I thought she would come back, but she didn't." He bit his lip, holding the car so tight it squeaked in his hand. "They told me she's sleeping forever." Ryan felt the words land inside his chest like stones. A hospital hallway flashed in his memory. Years ago, when his own father had died, and he'd been too proud to cry. He remembered that hollow air, the way everything sounded like it was far away. Owen looked up, eyes wide and wet. "He said it's my fault." Ryan leaned forward, voice urgent, but calm. "Whose fault?" "My dad. He said if I wasn't so much trouble she wouldn't have—" Owen trailed off, burying his face into his knees. His shoulders shook with a silent sob. Ryan's throat tightened. Anger pricked hot behind his ribs, but he pressed it down. This boy didn't need rage. He needed something steadier. "No," Ryan said, firm but gentle. He let the word hang there, solid as stone. "Owen, it's not your fault. Not even close. Sometimes people get sick and it's nobody's doing. Your mom." He paused, searching for words that wouldn't break him further. "Your mom loved you. I can see that." Owen peeked up through strands of wet hair, uncertainty flickering. "You don't know her." "You're right," Ryan admitted, "but I know love leaves marks. The way you keep that car. The way you wait because you think it will bring her back. That's love still living in you." Owen's fingers loosened on the car just slightly. His lips quivered. She used to tell me to be brave." Ryan nodded. "I think you already are." The boy sniffled, swiping at his face with the back of his hand. For the first time, he leaned a fraction toward Ryan like a plant reaching toward light it wasn't sure it deserved. Ryan eased his jacket closer. This time, Owen didn't push it away. Small hands pulled the heavy fabric around his shoulders. He disappeared inside it, the sleeves dangling, his chin sinking into the collar. "Better?" Ryan asked. Owen gave the faintest nod, his bare feet still pressed against the wet ground, but his body no longer curled in on itself. Ryan stayed quiet, letting the moment breathe. He studied the child, skinny arms, pale legs, the haunted look in his eyes. Every instinct in him, honed for profit margins and deadlines, shifted into something else, something protective. He wanted to demand where the father was. He wanted to storm through the city until he dragged the man out by the collar. But that wasn't what Owen needed tonight. What Owen needed was someone who wouldn't walk away. Ryan adjusted his voice. "Do you trust me enough to come with me? Just somewhere dry, just to get warm." Owen looked down at the toy car, turning it once in his hand. The bent wheel caught in his palm. He pressed his lips tight, then whispered, "If I go, he won't find me." Ryan steadied himself, careful with every word. "If he wanted to find you, he wouldn't have left you here. You don't need to sit in the rain to prove anything." He leaned closer, meeting Owen's eyes. "You don't have to be good for someone to stay. You just have to be you." The boy blinked, confusion mingling with hope. The fragile thread of trust stretched thinner but did not break. Ryan reached out, not touching, just opening his palm near the boy's. "Owen, I won't force you, but if you're ready, I'll walk with you." Owen stared at the hand. His own fingers twitched, toy car clutched tight. The silence was long. Finally, slowly, Owen extended his other hand, trembling, and placed it on Ryan's palm. The weight was nothing. The meaning was everything. Ryan closed his fingers gently around Owen's small hand, the chill of it sinking straight into his bones. The boy's palm was clammy, thin, but it was there, and Ryan treated it as if it were glass. "All right," he said softly. "Let's get you warm." Owen kept the toy car clenched in his other fist, half hidden in Ryan's oversized jacket. His bare feet slapped against the wet concrete as Ryan guided him toward the service exit. The boy walked stiffly, like he expected the ground to vanish at any moment. Outside, the rain had thinned to a cold drizzle. Ryan's car idled near the curb, the driver already stepping out with an umbrella. The man froze when he saw the small figure at Ryan's side. Ryan shook his head once, silently telling him not to ask questions. He opened the back door himself and helped Owen climb in. The leather seats seemed too big, too clean for a boy so small, his legs barely reaching the edge. Owen tucked into the corner, still holding the toy car. Ryan slid in beside him, wet clothes sticking to his skin. "We're going to make a stop," he told the driver. "Clinic on 5th and Pine." The driver hesitated. "Sir, you don't want to go home first?" Ryan's eyes hardened. "Clinic. Now." The car pulled away. Streetlights washed the city in pale gold as they sped through downtown Seattle. Ryan kept his gaze on Owen, who stared out the window, watching the blur of neon signs and rain-slicked pavement. After a while, Owen spoke, so quiet Ryan almost missed it. "You're not taking me back?" "No," Ryan said firmly. "Not tonight. You need to be warm, fed, checked by a doctor. That's all that matters right now." The boy turned toward him, suspicion still flickering. "But people say things. Then they change." Ryan held his eyes. "Then I'll prove it by not changing." The clinic was a modest brick building with a glowing red cross sign. Ryan carried Owen in, ignoring the way people in the waiting area looked at his expensive suit and the barefoot child in his arms. A nurse hurried over, eyes widening. "Is he hurt?" she asked. "Cold, hungry," Ryan answered. "Feet cut up from the concrete. He needs to be checked." Owen clung tighter to Ryan's neck, his voice panicked. "Don't let them take me." Ryan steadied him, whispering near his ear. "They won't. I'll stay right here." That seemed to settle him. The nurse led them to an exam room. Ryan sat with Owen on the table while the nurse cleaned his feet, wrapping small bandages around the worst scrapes. Owen winced, but kept still, his hand never leaving Ryan's sleeve. The doctor entered, a middle-aged man with kind eyes. "He's underweight," he said after a quick check. "Dehydrated, but nothing we can't fix with food, rest, and care." He lowered his voice. "Does he have a guardian?" Ryan felt Owen's fingers tighten. He met the doctor's gaze evenly. "He does now." The doctor hesitated, but nodded. "I'll have the nurse bring him some soup and juice. He needs something gentle." When the tray arrived, Ryan encouraged Owen to eat. The boy dipped the spoon slowly, as if testing whether it would be taken away. He finished half the bowl before his eyelids drooped, exhaustion pulling at him. Ryan brushed damp hair back from Owen's forehead. The boy whispered, half asleep, "You won't leave?" "No," Ryan said, steady as a vow. "Not tonight. Not tomorrow." By the time the nurse returned, Owen was curled against Ryan's chest, asleep, his toy car clutched tight. Ryan stood, holding the boy easily, and looked at the nurse. "I'll need to speak with someone from social services," he said, "but make it clear, I'm not walking away." And with those words, Ryan felt a shift inside him. The choice was made. The morning light through the clinic windows was thin and gray, the kind that made everything feel colder than it was. Ryan sat in the waiting room chair, Owen curled against his chest, the boy's head tucked under his chin. The toy car was still clutched in one hand, its bent wheel pressing faintly into Ryan's shirt. A woman in a tan trench coat entered, carrying a worn leather folder. She introduced herself with a calm smile. Marisol Green, Child Protective Services. She took the chair opposite Ryan. Her eyes softened at the sight of Owen asleep in his arms, but her tone stayed professional. "Can you tell me what happened last night?" Ryan explained, walking under the bleachers, finding Owen barefoot in the storm, the whispers about waiting to be good. He told her about the scrapes, the hunger, the words about his mother. Marisol listened, pen scratching across her notes. When Ryan finished, she glanced at Owen, then back to him. "You understand, Mr. Sterling, that children in this situation are usually placed into emergency foster care while we investigate." Ryan's jaw tightened. "And you understand that I'm not handing him off to strangers tonight." Marisol arched an eyebrow. "You're his father?" "No," Ryan admitted, "but I am the man who found him, and I'm the one he trusted enough to come with. That should count for something." Marisol studied him, her expression unreadable. "You're a CEO, aren't you? I recognize your name. Sterling Dynamics." Ryan nodded once. "You run a billion-dollar company. How do you plan to manage a traumatized child on top of that?" Ryan lowered his eyes to Owen, brushing a strand of hair from the boy's forehead. "The same way I manage anything worth keeping, with time, with care, with presence." Marisol leaned back, folding her hands. "Investors may not agree with that philosophy. Investors don't decide what kind of man I am," Ryan said quietly but firmly. The social worker watched him for a long moment. Then she sighed. "I'll make a note. Temporary placement with you, pending review. But, Mr. Sterling, this is highly irregular. You'll be under scrutiny. Every move you make will be judged." Ryan met her gaze. "So be it." Marisol nodded, then handed him a list of immediate requirements: medical follow-ups, a safe environment, regular check-ins. Ryan tucked the papers into his pocket. By the time he left the clinic, the drizzle had stopped. Owen stirred awake in the car, rubbing his eyes. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe," Ryan said. The boy hesitated. "Safe like the clinic?" "Safe like home," Ryan answered. When they reached the Sterling Tower penthouse, Ryan carried Owen through the echoing marble lobby. The boy's eyes darted nervously at the high ceilings, the polished floors, the doorman's curious stare. Inside the apartment, the silence was heavy, sterile. No photos, no toys, no evidence of life lived beyond business. Ryan realized suddenly how cold it must look to a child. He sat Owen gently on the leather sofa and crouched to eye level. "You hungry again?" Owen shrugged, clutching the toy car. Ryan took off his suit jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and stepped into the kitchen. He stared at gleaming appliances he rarely touched. His chef usually handled meals, but today it was him. He pulled bread, cheese, and a pan. A grilled cheese sandwich. Simple, warm, something he remembered his mother making when the world felt too big. The smell drifted into the living room. Owen peeked around the corner, nose twitching. Ryan placed the plate on the coffee table and sat cross-legged on the floor. "It's not fancy, but it's ours." Owen climbed down, hesitant, and took a bite. His eyes widened. "It's good." Ryan smiled. "Glad to hear it." For the first time, Owen set the toy car on the table, his hands free as he ate. It was small, but Ryan felt it, a flicker of trust, fragile but real. And in that quiet moment, the sterile penthouse no longer felt like just glass and steel. It felt like the beginning of something living. The grilled cheese was gone in minutes, crumbs scattered across the plate. Owen licked a smear of cheese from his finger, then glanced up at Ryan, almost startled that the man was still sitting cross-legged on the floor with him. "You don't have to stay," Owen said quietly. Ryan leaned back on his hands, studying the boy's wary eyes. "I know," he replied, "but I want to." The words seemed to hang in the air, heavier than they should have. Owen blinked, like he wasn't used to hearing that kind of choice spoken aloud. After breakfast, Ryan showed him around the penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows poured pale Seattle light into the room, glass walls revealing a sweeping skyline. But Owen barely looked. Instead, he clutched his toy car and stuck close, eyes darting toward the wide spaces as if expecting them to swallow him whole. When they reached Ryan's study, the boy hesitated at the doorway. The desk gleamed with order, piles of neatly stacked files, pens lined in perfect rows. Ryan realized then how barren the place looked, an office in the sky, not a home. He crouched beside Owen. "You can sit anywhere you like. This isn't just mine anymore." Owen tilted his head. "You work here?" "Sometimes too much," Ryan admitted with a soft smile, "but maybe I can change that." Owen stepped inside slowly, fingertips brushing the cool wood of the desk. His eyes landed on a stack of blank paper. "Can I draw?" Ryan pulled out a pencil from the drawer and handed it to him. "Course." Minutes later, Owen sat on the rug, sketching crooked lines of a house with smoke curling from a chimney. The toy car sat parked beside the paper. Ryan watched from the desk chair, feeling something stir in his chest that no boardroom victory had ever given him. The moment was interrupted by the chime of the elevator. Ryan's COO, Anya Park, strode in, her heels clicking on the polished floor. She stopped short when she saw the child on the rug. "Ryan," she said sharply, "what is this?" Owen stiffened, clutching the drawing to his chest. Ryan rose slowly. "This is Owen. He's staying here." Anya's eyes narrowed. "Staying? With you? Do you have any idea what this looks like to investors?" Ryan's jaw tightened. "I know exactly what it looks like. It looks like a man choosing what matters." Anya crossed her arms. "The board won't see it that way. They'll say you're distracted, reckless. You're responsible for thousands of employees. You can't gamble that stability on a whim." "It's not a whim," Ryan said, his voice steel beneath the calm. He glanced toward Owen, who was watching them with wide eyes. "This is a child. A life. I won't treat him like a margin on a quarterly report." Anya exhaled sharply, lowering her voice. "I admire your heart, Ryan, but compassion doesn't balance books. If this becomes public, shareholders will panic. I'm warning you, this will cost you." Ryan stepped closer, his voice low but unyielding. "Then let it cost me. I won't compromise on this." The silence stretched. Finally, Anya pressed her lips together, her sharp confidence faltering for just a moment. "You've built this company your whole life. Don't throw it away." Ryan shook his head. "If I lose everything but protect him, it won't be throwing it away. It'll be finding what matters." Anya glanced at Owen one last time, then left, heels striking the floor like punctuation. When the door shut, Ryan returned to the rug, kneeling down. "Sorry about that," he murmured. Owen held up his drawing, a crooked house with two stick figures inside, one tall, one small. "It's okay," he whispered. Ryan felt his throat tighten. He picked up the toy car, gently straightening its bent wheel with a paperclip from his desk. He set it back into Owen's hand. "This car," he said softly, "will always roll again, just like you." And for the first time, Owen smiled. That night, Seattle's skyline glittered beyond the glass walls, but Ryan's focus stayed on the boy curled in the guest room bed. Owen's small frame lay under blankets too big for him. The dented red toy car clutched against his chest like a shield. Every so often, his body twitched, breath catching, as if nightmares tugged at him. Ryan sat in the chair beside the bed, sleeves rolled up, tie abandoned. His phone buzzed on the nightstand, texts from Anya, missed calls from board members, but he ignored them all. Instead, he leaned forward, whispering, "You're safe here, Owen. I promise." At one point, Owen whimpered, rolling restlessly. Ryan reached out and rested his hand lightly on the blanket over the boy's shoulder. The tension eased. His breathing steadied. Ryan stayed there, his hand an anchor, until the room grew quiet again. Later, when Owen finally settled into deeper sleep, Ryan noticed the toy car's broken wheel wobble. He pulled a paperclip from his pocket. carefully bending it into place. With slow, deliberate movements, he secured the wheel. When he set the car back on the nightstand, it rolled in a straight line again. He stared at it for a long moment, a small symbol of something larger, a promise to repair what was broken, to protect what was fragile. The next morning, Ryan brewed coffee while Owen padded into the kitchen in one of Ryan's oversized t-shirts, the hem brushing his knees. He rubbed his eyes and sniffed the air. "Smells weird," Owen mumbled. Ryan smiled faintly. "That's coffee. Grown-up fuel. Want something better?" He set a bowl of cereal on the table. Owen sat cautiously, eating in small bites. His gaze flicked toward Ryan, then away again. "Are you really going to keep me here?" Ryan leaned on the counter, his voice steady. "If you'll let me, yes." Before Owen could respond, the intercom buzzed. Ryan answered, his shoulders tensing at the voice on the other end. "This is Cole Maddox," the man said, rough and insistent. "I'm here for my son." Ryan's jaw locked. He turned slightly, shielding Owen from hearing, but the boy had already gone pale, spoon clattering in the bowl. The elevator dinged, and moments later a tall, unshaven man in a wrinkled leather jacket stepped into the penthouse. His eyes darted greedily around the polished space before landing on Owen. "There you are," Cole said, a smile that didn't reach his eyes stretching across his face. "Come on, boy. Time to go home." Owen shrank back in his chair, whispering, "No." Ryan stepped between them. "He doesn't want to go with you," Cole sneered. "And who are you? Some rich guy playing hero? He's my blood. You've got no right." Ryan held his ground. "I found him abandoned in the rain. I've cared for him since. Blood doesn't give you ownership when you've already walked away." Cole's expression hardened. "You think you can keep him? You don't know what you're getting into." Ryan's voice stayed low, calm, but firm. "I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm protecting him." Cole's eyes narrowed, flicking to the expensive furniture, the sweeping view. "A man like you doesn't take in strays out of the goodness of his heart. You want something from him." Ryan's fists tightened, but he kept his voice level. "The only thing I want is for him to feel safe, something you clearly failed to give." Owen slid from the chair, hiding behind Ryan, clutching his toy car so tightly it squeaked. His voice trembled. "Please don't make me go." Ryan rested a steadying hand on the boy's shoulder, his gaze locked on Cole. "You heard him. He stays." Cole smirked, but there was venom behind it. "We'll see what a judge thinks about that." And with that, he turned on his heel, the elevator swallowing him. The silence afterward was heavy. Ryan knelt, meeting Owen's terrified eyes. "He's not taking you. Not now. Not ever without a fight." Owen nodded slowly, pressing his forehead to Ryan's chest. For the first time, the boy clung not out of fear of the world, but out of trust in one man's promise. The next days blurred into a storm of paperwork and tensions. True to his word, Cole Maddox filed for custody, dragging Ryan and Owen into the cold halls of family court. On the morning of the hearing, Ryan stood in the marble corridor, adjusting his tie with hands that trembled despite years of facing hostile boardrooms. Owen sat beside him on a wooden bench, the dented red toy car balanced on his knees. His small hands rolled it back and forth, the repaired wheel clicking softly with each turn. Ryan knelt to his level. "You don't have to say anything today," he said gently. "All you need to do is sit with me. I'll handle the rest." Owen's eyes searched his. "But what if they believe him?" Ryan rested a hand over Owen's. "Then I'll tell them the truth, and the truth is stronger than any lie." When the bailiff called their case, they entered the courtroom. The space smelled faintly of dust and wood polish, the judge seated high above, robes draped like storm clouds. Cole sat across the aisle, his lawyer whispering in his ear. His smirk carried arrogance, but his eyes darted nervously. The proceedings began with Cole's lawyer painting him as a reformed father, claiming grief had clouded his judgment. They described Owen as troubled but salvageable under his rightful parents' guidance. Each word made Ryan's jaw clench tighter. When it was his turn, Ryan rose. His voice carried steady, not the booming authority he used in boardrooms, but a quiet strength. He told the court how he had found Owen barefoot in the rain, abandoned and frightened. He spoke of the nightmares, the hunger, the way Owen flinched at sudden sounds. "He doesn't need wealth," Ryan said, his tone raw with honesty. "He needs safety. He needs to know someone won't walk away when things get hard. I can give him that. Not as a replacement for what he's lost, but as someone who refuses to let him lose more." The judge's gaze flicked toward Owen. "Would the child like to speak?" Ryan tensed, ready to object, but Owen surprised him by standing on his small legs. His knees knocked together as he walked to the center, his toy car clutched tightly. He looked at the judge, then at Ryan. His voice trembled, but he spoke. "I want to stay with him. He fixed my car. He fixed me." And then, as if to seal his words, Owen rolled the car forward. It wobbled across the polished wood and stopped against Ryan's shoes. The courtroom went silent. Even the judge leaned forward slightly, the weight of the moment undeniable. Cole's lawyer tried to protest, muttering about manipulation, but the judge silenced him with a raised hand. "I've heard enough." The gavel struck once, sharp and final. "Temporary custody is granted to Mr. Sterling. Visitation for Mr. Maddox is denied until further review." Ryan exhaled, the tension draining from his shoulders. He crouched as Owen rushed back to him, throwing his arms around his waist. Ryan held him close, whispering into his hair, "You were braver than anyone in this room." Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed, reporters shouting questions. Anya waited near the car, her face tight with worry. "You won," she said, almost accusing. "No," Ryan corrected, holding Owen's hand. He did. And as they drove away, Owen's head rested against Ryan's arm, the toy car nestled safely in his pocket. For the first time in years, Ryan felt not like a CEO commanding empires, but like a father learning to hold on. The courthouse victory should have brought peace, but Ryan knew Cole Maddox wouldn't let go easily. He had seen the venom in the man's eyes as the gavel fell. That evening, the penthouse felt quieter than usual, though not empty. Owen's crayons were scattered across the coffee table. His drawing of a crooked house taped proudly to the fridge. Ryan tucked the boy into bed, the repaired toy car resting on the nightstand. "You're safe here," he whispered, brushing damp hair from Owen's forehead. But just after midnight, the elevator chimed. Ryan, still awake at his desk, stiffened. The private elevator required clearance. He rose quickly, stepping into the foyer. Cole stood there, flanked by two men in cheap suits. His smirk was gone, replaced by a hard edge. "You thought a judge could stop me?" Cole sneered. "That's my son in there. You can't keep him from me." Ryan's voice was low but firm. "You lost your chance to be his father the night you left him in the rain." Cole's fists clenched. "You think money makes you a better man?" He stepped forward, but Ryan didn't move. "You're wrong," Ryan said steadily. "It's not money. It's showing up. It's being there when he wakes up scared. It's fixing the small things, like his car, because it matters to him, things you never cared to notice." Cole's jaw tightened, rage twisting his features. One of his men shifted, ready to push forward, but Ryan's tone cut like steel. "Try anything here and you'll be facing more than family court. You'll be facing the law, and me." From down the hall, a small voice broke the tension. "Ryan?" Owen stood barefoot in the doorway, rubbing his eyes, the oversized t-shirt hanging off his shoulders. He froze when he saw his father. The toy car trembled in his hand. Cole softened his tone, feigning warmth. "Owen, come here, buddy. Let's go home." Owen's lip quivered. He looked at Ryan, then back at Cole. Slowly, he shook his head. "No. Home is here." The words hit harder than any blow. Cole's face twisted with fury, but he masked it quickly, smirking at Ryan. "This isn't over. I've got lawyers, money, connections. You can't keep him." Ryan moved, placing himself fully between Cole and Owen. "Then bring everything you've got. I'll still be here when it's done." The standoff stretched, silent but electric. Finally, Cole jerked his chin at his men, and they retreated to the elevator. The doors slid shut, leaving only the hum of the city outside. Ryan turned, crouching in front of Owen. "You okay?" The boy's hands shook as he held up the toy car. He wanted me to go." Ryan pulled him close, steadying him with arms that would not let go. "And you didn't. That was brave, Owen. Braver than you know." Owen buried his face in Ryan's chest, whispering, "Don't let him take me." Ryan tightened his hold. "Never," he vowed. "Not while I'm breathing." Later, as Owen drifted back to sleep, Ryan sat beside the bed again. The city lights glowed against the glass, but his gaze stayed fixed on the small boy clutching a repaired toy car. He knew the battle wasn't finished. Cole would return, stronger, louder, armed with lies. But Ryan also knew this. He had been tested tonight, and he had chosen. Not wealth, not reputation. He had chosen fatherhood. And for the first time in years, he felt like a man finally becoming who he was meant to be. The courtroom was colder the second time. The air felt sharp, the kind of chill that came not from the weather, but from the weight of what was at stake. Ryan sat at the long wooden table, Owen beside him, the boy's small shoulders squared as though he knew this battle was bigger than either of them. Cole Maddox entered with a team of suited lawyers, their briefcases snapping open like weapons. He wore a pressed shirt this time, hair slicked back, his rough edges polished to a counterfeit shine. He glanced at Ryan with a smirk, then at Owen with a look that made the boy shrink against Ryan's arm. The judge called for order. Cole's lead attorney rose, voice dripping with practiced sympathy. "Your Honor, my client admits his mistakes. He grieved poorly after his wife's death, but he is ready now. He wants to rebuild his life and take responsibility for his son. No corporation, no matter how wealthy, should tear a child from his blood." Ryan clenched his fists under the table. He had rehearsed his testimony, but when he rose, he didn't speak like a CEO. He spoke like a man who had spent nights kneeling by a child's bed, calming nightmares. "I didn't find Owen in a home," Ryan began, his voice steady but low. "I found him barefoot in a storm, hungry, frightened. Told he had to sit there until he was good. That is not parenting, that is abandonment." He looked directly at Cole. "And no apology wrapped in fine words can erase that." Cole's attorney bristled, but the judge raised a hand. "Mr. Sterling, why should this court believe you can provide the stability the child needs?" Ryan glanced down at Owen, who sat clutching his dented red toy car. He took a breath. "Because I already have. Not with money, with presence, with food on the table, with nights awake fixing a broken toy car so a boy could wake up knowing someone cared." The courtroom quieted. Even Cole's lawyers shifted uncomfortably. Then, in the silence, Owen stood. His knees wobbled, but he stepped forward until he reached the center of the room. He looked at the judge, then down at his toy car. His voice trembled. "My dad said I was trouble. But Ryan never says that. He stays, even when I have nightmares, even when I break stuff. He fixed my car, and me." And with hands shaking, Owen rolled the toy car forward across the polished wood floor. It clattered, then stopped against Ryan's polished shoes. Gasps rippled through the room. Ryan bent, picked up the toy, and held it carefully, as though it were made of glass. The judge's face softened. "Thank you, Owen," she said gently. Ryan placed the car back into the boy's hands before guiding him to sit. When the judge finally spoke, her tone carried finality. "In light of testimony and the clear bond between the child and Mr. Sterling, I grant temporary custody to Ryan Sterling. Visitation rights for Mr. Maddox are denied pending further investigation." Cole shot to his feet, outrage spilling into the room, but his lawyers pulled him back down. The gavel struck, sharp and decisive. Owen looked up at Ryan, eyes wide, as though waiting for confirmation. Ryan crouched, cupping his face. "You're safe, Owen. You stay with me." Tears welled in the boy's eyes, but for the first time they weren't from fear. They were from relief. He hugged Ryan fiercely, the toy car pressed between them like a seal of their bond. Outside, reporters crowded the steps, shouting questions about reputation, responsibility, scandal. Ryan ignored them all. He only tightened his grip on Owen's hand. This wasn't about optics. This was about choosing the only title that mattered now. Father. The autumn wind swept through downtown Seattle as Ryan and Owen left the courthouse. Reporters pressed in, cameras flashing, voices calling his name. Ryan shielded Owen with his arm, guiding him quickly into the waiting car. The door shut, and silence fell like a blanket. Owen held his toy car in both hands, thumb tracing the repaired wheel. "Does this mean I get to stay?" Ryan's throat tightened. "It means you're with me now. The judge said so. Temporary custody is ours." The boy leaned back, shoulders easing for the first time in weeks. "Temporary means not forever." Ryan turned, meeting his eyes. "It means we start with now, and I'm not letting go." That night, back at the penthouse, Ryan stood in the doorway of the guest room. Owen had drawn pictures all afternoon. Crayon houses, stick figures, cars rolling along crooked lines. The once sterile room was littered with color. Ryan smiled at the mess. For the first time, the place felt alive. As he tucked Owen into bed, the boy whispered, "You'll still be here in the morning, right?" Ryan sat on the edge of the bed. Every morning. The days that followed tested his words. Ryan balanced conference calls while packing school lunches. He traded late-night investor dinners for bedtime stories, his voice carrying through dimly lit rooms as Owen drifted into sleep. The rhythm of life shifted, jarring at first, but slowly it became their rhythm. At the office, whispers grew louder. Anya pulled him aside one afternoon, her tone sharp. "Ryan, the board is restless. They think this custody situation is a distraction." Ryan leaned on the glass table of the conference room, exhaustion in his eyes but conviction in his voice. "If protecting a child makes me look reckless, then maybe they've forgotten what real leadership is." Anya hesitated, then softened. "You've changed, Ryan, and not in a bad way. Just don't let them use this against you." He nodded, though he knew the storm wasn't over. Cole Maddox still loomed in the background, restless, waiting. One night, after a particularly grueling day, Ryan found Owen asleep on the couch, crayons scattered around him. He lifted the boy gently, carrying him to bed. As he pulled the blanket over him, Owen stirred, eyes half open. "Do dads always stay?" he murmured. Ryan brushed a hand through his hair. "The good ones do." The boy's fingers tightened on Ryan's sleeve, even in sleep. Ryan sat beside him until dawn, watching the fragile peace on his face. The next morning, Ryan placed a framed photo on the nightstand, his own childhood picture, standing with his late mother in a small kitchen. He didn't know why he chose that moment to share it, only that Owen needed to see he hadn't grown up untouched by loss. When Owen noticed, his small voice carried awe. "That's you?" Ryan nodded. "A long time ago. I didn't have much, but I had her. She taught me what it means to stay. Now I want to teach you the same." Owen touched the glass of the frame, his reflection mingling with Ryan's younger face. "I think you already are." And, for the first time, Ryan felt not just relief at winning temporary custody, but the weight of responsibility settling fully on his shoulders. This wasn't about fighting battles in courtrooms or boardrooms anymore. This was about proving, day after day, that he meant the promise he had made, to never leave. The weeks that followed brought a new kind of rhythm, one Ryan had never known. His mornings no longer began with spreadsheets and stock tickers, but with the scrape of a chair and the soft shuffle of bare feet. Owen would pad into the kitchen, hair sticking up, toy car clutched in one hand, rubbing his eyes with the other. Ryan would already be there, sleeves rolled, cooking eggs or flipping pancakes, simple meals that felt monumental because they weren't eaten alone. The boy would sit at the counter, legs swinging, and Ryan would slide a plate in front of him, always pausing to ask, "Enough syrup?" At first, Owen was cautious, answering in whispers, testing boundaries like fragile glass. But slowly, cracks of light began to shine through. He started humming while coloring at the coffee table. He began leaving drawings taped to the fridge, a stick figure with broad shoulders beside a smaller one, always holding hands. Ryan's penthouse, once sterile and silent, now carried the sound of laughter echoing off glass walls. Crayons scattered across polished tables. A half-built Lego set sat proudly beside quarterly reports. And Ryan, who had built his empire on control, found himself learning patience, learning that sometimes the most important deals were made over bedtime stories. Still, challenges came. One morning, Owen woke from a nightmare, screaming for his mother. Ryan rushed in, heart pounding, and found the boy curled into a ball, sobbing into the pillow. He gathered him close, whispering gently, "It's okay. You're not alone. Not anymore." Owen clung to him, tears soaking his shirt. She always said she'd stay, but she didn't. Ryan's chest ached. She didn't want to leave, Owen, and she'd be proud of how brave you are now. The boy quieted, holding his toy car between them like a shield. Ryan kissed the top of his head, a gesture that felt as natural as breathing. At work, the whispers of doubt still lingered. Anya brought him another stack of reports, her voice hushed. "Investors are nervous. They think you're distracted." Ryan looked past the spreadsheets to the crayon drawing taped to his office wall, a silent reminder of what mattered. "Then let them be nervous. For once, I'm building something they can't measure." One evening, while Owen sat on the rug sketching a crooked lighthouse, he looked up suddenly. "Ryan?" "Yeah, buddy. Why do you do all this?" "For me?" Ryan set down his glass of water and crossed to sit beside him. He thought of his own childhood, of a mother who had stayed, and of a father who hadn't. He thought of nights he'd buried himself in work to fill the hollow spaces. "Because someone did it for me once," Ryan said softly, "and because no one should ever have to prove they're worth keeping." Owen blinked, his eyes shining. He crawled into Ryan's lap, curling against him like he had been waiting for this moment all along. That night, as Ryan carried him to bed, Owen whispered, half asleep, "Maybe you're my forever." Ryan's throat tightened, his arms tightening protectively around the boy. "I'll do everything I can to be." The red toy car sat on the nightstand, gleaming faintly under the lamp. Once broken, now mended. It had become more than a toy. It was a promise. And as Ryan stood in the doorway, watching Owen sleep peacefully, he knew the fight wasn't over. Cole Maddox would return, but so would Ryan. Every day, every night, he would return, because that's what fathers do. The knock came one gray morning, sharp and deliberate. Ryan opened the penthouse door to find Cole Maddox standing there, this time in a tailored suit, flanked by two attorneys with briefcases. His smirk had returned, polished like the leather of his shoes. "Morning, Sterling," Cole said smoothly. "Thought you'd enjoy some company. I'm here to make things right." Ryan's jaw tightened. "You mean make things yours?" Cole chuckled. "Call it what you want. My lawyers have filed for permanent custody. I've got affidavits, witnesses, and a heartfelt story of a grieving father who just wants his boy back." His voice dropped, venom cutting through the charm. "Money talks, Sterling, and I've got plenty." Ryan stepped into the hall, refusing to let Owen hear. "So do I. But the difference is I don't buy people. I earn trust." The attorneys handed over a thick folder. "We'll see you in court," one of them said. That night, Ryan sat at the dining table long after Owen had fallen asleep. Papers sprawled across the wood, financial records, hospital notes, even false testimonies claiming Cole had been present during Owen's care. His stomach twisted with frustration. Cole was trying to rewrite history. Anya arrived, still in her business suit, setting her briefcase down. "You'll need to fight harder this time. He's playing the sympathy card, and some will believe it." Ryan pinched the bridge of his nose. Then we'll bring the truth into the light. Every detail, every absence, every time he left that boy to fend for himself." Anya hesitated, then placed a hand on his shoulder. "This isn't just about winning anymore, is it?" Ryan looked toward the closed door of Owen's room. "It never was. It's about making sure he never wonders again if someone will leave." The final hearing arrived in a wood-paneled courtroom heavy with tension. Cole sat at the plaintiff's table, feigning sorrow. His attorneys paraded witnesses, neighbors who claimed to have seen him take Owen to the park, a former co-worker who swore he had spoken often of his son. Each testimony felt rehearsed, brittle under the weight of truth. When Ryan's turn came, he didn't rely on rhetoric. He brought records from the clinic, testimony from the social worker Marisol Green, and photographs of Owen's injuries from that first night. He spoke of the nightmares, the trust slowly rebuilt, the drawings taped on the fridge. Parenthood, Ryan told the court, is not about blood. It's about showing up when it matters most. It's about staying when it's easier to walk away. Owen knows who stayed, and he knows who didn't. The judge listened, eyes sharp. Then she turned to Owen. "Do you wish to speak again, child?" Owen rose from his seat, clutching the red toy car in both hands. He looked at his father, then at Ryan. His voice was small but clear. "He left me in the rain. Ryan found me. Ryan fixed my car. Ryan stayed." He paused, tears slipping down his cheeks. "I want to stay too." Silence filled the room. Cole's attorneys shifted uncomfortably, their polished arguments unraveling under the weight of a child's truth. The judge's gavel struck once. "This court will review final custody tomorrow. Until then, Owen remains with Mr. Sterling." As they left, Ryan placed a steady hand on Owen's shoulder. The boy leaned against him, whispering, "We're almost there, right?" Ryan nodded. "Almost, buddy. Almost forever." The courtroom was calm the next morning, the air tense with anticipation. Ryan sat beside Owen, whose small hands clenched the dented red toy car. Cole Maddox and his lawyers waited across the aisle, their confidence a brittle mask. The judge reviewed the case, listening to final testimonies and examining the evidence. She asked pointed questions, weighing every detail: the abandonment, Ryan's care, the bond forged through weeks of trust, the falsified affidavits presented by Cole. Finally, she leaned forward. "After reviewing all evidence and testimony, the court finds that permanent custody of Owen Maddox shall be granted to Ryan Sterling. Mr. Maddox, visitation rights are denied at this time." Owen's eyes widened. He turned to Ryan, uncertainty battling hope. "Really?" Ryan knelt and cupped the boy's face. "Yes, Owen. You're home. Forever." The boy's relief spilled over. He threw his arms around Ryan's neck, the toy car pressed between them. "Dad," he whispered, barely audible. Ryan hugged him tightly. "Always," he replied, his voice steady, a promise sealed by everything that had come before. Later, in the penthouse garden, autumn leaves swirled around them. Owen held the toy car in both hands, watching it roll across the brick pathway, finally steady. He looked up at Ryan, eyes bright. "You really stayed." Ryan knelt, lifting the boy gently. "I told you I would, and I meant it." For the first time, the penthouse felt like a home, alive with laughter, trust, and a sense of belonging. The battles, the fear, the nights of uncertainty, they were behind them now. What remained was a family forged through storm, patience, and unwavering commitment. Owen leaned against Ryan's chest, toy car tucked under his arm. "I'm really yours now, huh?" Ryan smiled, brushing back wet strands of hair. "Forever." And in that moment, as the sun dipped low behind the Seattle skyline, father and son stood together, bound not by blood alone, but by the promise of protection, love, and an unbreakable bond. The red toy car rolled gently at their feet, a symbol of trust restored, hearts mended, and a new life begun.